Good morning and welcome to this new Teacher Induction orientation program. I'm so glad that you could make time to attend this orientation session. Do you know that's the first time in the history of education that basic education is embarking on a session called Teacher Induction? Teacher induction in South Africa has happened in different ways and in different schools, but research tells us that it's very uncoordinated. And it's a few years ago that the minister has persuaded us to embark on this journey to develop a new teacher induction program for newly appointed teachers, for newly qualified teachers. And coincidentally, it ties in very nicely with the work that the South African Council of Educators, SACE, is doing in the professionalization of teaching. So we hope that this orientation session will put aside your fears and anxieties and will inspire you to become part of history in the making in South Africa. So we want you to sit back, we want you to listen, and hopefully we will answer your questions. But be assured that one of the presenters that is with you in this program will be there to answer your questions when they arise. So where did it all start? I think formally it started in 2009. Many of us will know and recall that there was a teacher education summit that brought together teacher unions, higher education institutions, the 9 provincial departments, the Department of Basic Education, and all relevant stakeholders in education to discuss teacher development. One of the aspects that came out of that summit was the whole notion of teacher induction. So it's not just a nice to have, something that just the DBE or the minister thought this is a nice idea, let's maybe pursue it. It is something that emanated from a robust discussion that took place in 2009 and that was later translated into the Integrated Strategic Planning Framework for Teacher Education and Development. Now the minister sat down with us shortly after that summit and she said to us, I want you to develop a short 1 week to 2 week program that school principals or district officials can use to just orientate a newly appointed teacher in a school so that the teacher feels that they know how the school work, they know how to relate to the parents and the broader community of the school, and also how to relate to the district office. So we embarked on that process, and my colleague, Ms. Lulekwa Chambula, was instrumental in developing an orientation booklet. That orientation booklet was finalized, and in the end it was placed on the website of the Department of Basic Education. Hard copies were sent to the different provinces, and we almost have an expectation that you, embarking on this journey of new teacher orientation, have had an opportunity to look at that new teacher orientation booklet. It's very important that you get a copy of it if you have not seen it yet. But shortly afterwards we realized that to just start with an orientation session will not be sufficient, because the South African Council of Educators embarked on a process of professionalizing the teaching profession. And one of the key milestones within that professionalization process is the whole aspect of new teacher induction. And we realized that the orientation booklet will fall short, and therefore we needed to start on a process of developing a comprehensive induction program that will set a minimum standard that can be implemented across the 9 provinces. And we did we started this process with a few key partners. One of them was VVOB. VVOB said to us they will support us as we embark on this journey, and through VVOB we then contracted and employed Jet Education Services to assist us in the development of a framework, a concept document that can launch us into this new era. What followed was a series of roundtable discussions. We had, from the period 2018 to 2029, we had a total of 3 roundtable discussions in which all our key stakeholders participated. We had teacher unions, school governing body federations, we had universities, we had provincial officials, and all other important stakeholders collaborated and worked together in those roundtable discussions. We didn't just stop there. We also had a working group that did the preparation for the roundtable, and following the roundtable unpacked what was some of the key issues that came out of the roundtable discussions. That working group was made up of representatives of these key stakeholders. Further to that, we also had a steering committee that made sure that we achieve our milestones and that we stay on track in achieving this goal of a new teacher induction program. The result of that process was a new teacher induction concept note. And you know, the good news is, and I'll share it a bit later, is that that concept note is part of the pack that you will be engaging with as you embark on this journey of new teacher induction. And that brings us to why you are here today in this particular orientation session. The field testing. Because one of the key recommendations that came out was to say, let's not just develop materials and then throw it out there and expect a whole sector to respond. We deliberately decided to embark on a field testing so that we can see how the program in its rollout will cope within the current realities of South Africa. So we've identified the Free State, KZN and Northwest as the 3 provinces in which we will field test, and those provinces have recommended 1 district in each one of those provinces for the field test. In each one of those provinces, we've established a steering committee, and those steering committee, the responsibility of that steering committee is to drive the implementation of the field test in the province. And therefore, we have an orientation today, because we realize many of you were not able to attend these roundtable discussions or to engage with the materials beforehand. And you have questions and fears, and perhaps you say to yourself, I'm already struggling what I've got to do in the school as it is. This is just an add-on burden for me. How on earth am I going to be able to do this? And I would like to say to you right at the outset, this program is not supposed to be a burden. This program is linked to the professional development of a teacher. And we hope that at the end of a teacher induction program, that you will be able to say, you know what, during this year, I have identified certain gaps in my teaching of the subjects that I'm responsible for. And I realize that I need to go for further professional development in that area. We hope that in this year, you will find out that there's other colleagues of you, just like you, in a similar position, and that they have been able to overcome some of those challenges. And we hope that you will then link up with them through professional learning communities and together learn from each other, and in that way strengthening your own professional development within here. So this is not a burden. This is something that is inherent to you as a teacher that wants to constantly improve him or herself. So here we are at the field test. What is the way forward? We hope, we realize that our timing is not perfect, so we know that our goals in terms of broad roll out, may be compromised, but we are aiming to go national in June 2021. What needs to happen between January and June? We've appointed a company, by the way, that company's name is Benita Williams Evaluations, who will be attending many of these sessions. They will be showing and giving you questionnaires to fill in. We really would like you to participate in that, because at the end, Benita Williams Evaluations will be able to say to the basic education sector, these are the areas where you need to improve. These are the areas where there are gaps that you need to fill. And the field testing will give us that information. And we hope to present that in March 2021 to the senior managers of the basic education sector and to finalize the induction program for rollout in June 2021. A key stakeholder, of course, in this whole process is the South African Council of Educators. And I would like to show you why I'm saying that. In this professionalization pathway of teachers, the South African Council of Educators have started to look at how do we professionalize teaching from the time of recruitment right up to the point of retirement. And it started to set out on a process working with universities and with departments around saying what are the minimum requirements of becoming a teacher. Who do we admit into the teaching profession right at the start as you start at the university? And SACE is in the process of working with universities around that process. But a key part of this professionalization pathway is, of course, what happens to the newly qualified teacher after they've been appointed at the school. And that is where the induction program kicks in. But before I talk about the induction program, let me just quickly explain something. Yes, the primary objective of this program is targeted towards newly qualified teachers. But as you may know, many teachers may have left the profession and their life took a different journey. And 5 years later or 10 years later, they decide, you know what, I've explored enough, I want to come back to teaching. But teaching is a vibrant profession and it changes over the years. So if you were out of the profession for 5 to 10 years, chances are that a lot of the policies have changed, a lot of the faces in teacher education management have changed, and therefore this orientation and this induction program is also for you. And then we also have teachers that may have come from a different country. They may be excellent teachers from where they come from, but are they accustomed to the South African context and the classrooms and the learners and the management styles of South African schools? So this induction program may also be for those teachers who've joined us from other countries in South Africa. So that is the target audience. So when we talk about a newly qualified teacher, a newly appointed teacher, we are talking of those baskets of teachers. Who are we not talking of? We're not talking about a teacher that may have been employed in school A and for many reasons have moved to school B. No, we're not talking about that teacher. That teacher is in the profession. They've been working at a particular school and all that is happening now to them is that they're moving to a next school. I hope that clarifies that issue, because that is a question that we've received from many of our participants in these meetings. So what we would like to achieve with this induction program, you will remember earlier I said that at the end of this time that you would have identified what are the gaps where you need to improve. So through the induction program, we would like to see how you link up with professional development at the end, so that it's a continuous professional teacher development process. That's why induction is not linked to the probation period, which is an HR issue. It's not linked to HR legislation, because then it would have been just a compliance exercise, something where you just tick, done it, done it, done it, done it. And we do not want induction to be that. Induction is linked to your own professional development. And that is why SACE is playing such a big role. Ultimately, we would want a portfolio of evidence that will emanate from the induction program, that you will generate, to be submitted to SACE, and that will contribute to your full registration with SACE. SACE refers to it as a professional development portfolio. Now, we are not there yet, and this particular field testing is not going to have that requirement. But we are going to expect you to develop a professional development portfolio or a portfolio of evidence, because we would like to see how you've engaged with that element of the induction program. And again, we don't want it to be a burden. A good teacher will at some point during a day think back on what happened in my classroom. What could I have done differently? How could I have engaged slightly differently with one of my colleagues at school? Or how could I have spoken differently to a parent? What have I done brilliantly today that makes me feel, wow, I wish I can just continue to do that every day? So that's where the portfolio of evidence comes in. And of course, we will guide you in that journey as part of the materials that we will be given to you in developing that portfolio of evidence. But please don't see this as an add-on, an additional burden, a compliance exercise. It's part of your professional development as a teacher. So what I'm going to do now, or there's just one more thing I want to say to you. We are engaging with SACE because SACE is saying they want induction to be completed within a 12 months mandatory period. We are saying to SACE that maybe 12 months is maybe 12 months is not going to work that well, and it's going to become just a compliance exercise. And the reason why we're saying that is because schools in South Africa are at different places. School management teams in South African schools are at different points of development. And we do not want a newly qualified, a newly appointed teacher's professional progression to be compromised because of inadequacies that may have existed at the school or within the school management team. So we are looking at the moment at this induction program to straddle over a continuum of 3 years. So when the national rollout comes, we are recommending to SACE that perhaps we need to say to newly appointed teachers, within the period of 3 years, you need to achieve and submit your professional development portfolio. But we're still in discussion with SACE around that, so we may have to compromise here and there around it. But we think it makes a lot of sense. So what are these 7 themes that we've identified that will guide us through the induction program as a newly qualified or newly appointed teacher? Theme 1 deals with teacher professionalism. It's about school attendance. It's about being in your class, on time, teaching, and a number of other issues. And it will be one of the themes that you will reflect on and that your mentor will engage with you. All of us come from different environments, and time have different meanings to us depending on where we come from. But it's important that in the school that we all compromise and work towards the same goals when it comes to time management and being in our classroom on time teaching. Theme 2 is about communication and collaboration. What is important here is that teachers of the 21st century are able to collaborate with each other. What happens in the classroom is not a secret, and it should never be. What happens in the classroom must be shared with colleagues, and the induction program will give us the opportunity to see how we are able to embark on the journey of collaborating better with our colleagues, of communicating better and reaching out to parents and not being threatened by parents who has the interest of their children at heart. And through the induction program, hopefully you will be able to learn how to strengthen this communication as you interact with your mentor at school. Very importantly is around inclusive teaching and learning, so there will be a big time spent around that. And the reason why we had to include that is because in the South African context, a teacher is confronted with learners that come from a wide range of backgrounds, who speaks different languages and have a wide range of abilities. And it's important that the teacher is able to harness and create an environment in the classroom that will give each one of those learners an opportunity to excel. And so we spend a lot of time on reflecting on this part around inclusive teaching and learning in the classroom. The biggest one, the one that's going to take most of your time, and justly so, is the theme that's going to deal around curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment. This is where you start to dive deeper into what happens in the classroom and how you teach. Please remember that the new teacher induction program is a generic induction program. So in other words, the materials will not address some needs that you need, that you will find you have in particular subject areas. We suggest that if you need further induction in particular subject areas, that you discuss that with your mentor and see if somebody else in the school staff cannot assist you, or that somebody perhaps at the district office can assist you in that. This new teacher induction program is a generic program and will not deal with subject-specific issues. Please take note of that. Theme 5 is around classroom management, and so many of my peers complain that newly qualified teachers are not able to manage classrooms appropriately. And I can't blame them, because the university environment just don't give you enough time to deal with the finer details of managing classrooms. And also remembering that our classrooms in South Africa are quite often large. Learners speak different language and different behaviors are displayed. And for a newly qualified teacher, that can be fairly daunting. So we hope that through this induction period and engagement with your mentor, you will be able to develop strategies and competencies that will make you a better teacher in terms of classroom management. We will deal with resources. What are the resources available to you and how to work with those resources. The teacher, the mentor teacher, will be able to guide you as a newly qualified teacher, newly appointed teacher through this process. And so one of the themes will deal with that. The one that's I'm very passionate about is the one around the teacher as a critical, reflective practitioner and a researcher. Because as a professional, that is one of the foundations of being a teacher. When you sit and reflect on what happened in my classroom, what happened today at school, where can I improve, where's my weaknesses, Where do I need to go for a course? Where can I go read? How can I use Google or YouTube in my classroom or other ICT components to strengthen the way that I teach? So for me, I hope you will have a mentor in your school that's going to really guide you around this process and make you a better teacher. And in the end, the professional learning communities also feature here, and we hope that you will be able to engage them. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly show off some of the materials that we've developed. And we thought about everything. There might be one or two gaps somewhere that you will tell us so that we can improve on that. But we're fairly proud of what we were able to develop together with VVOB and our other partners in this particular process. So these are the materials. Oh, before I come to the materials, just want to speak slightly about the 4 pillars of the induction program. The 4 key pillars of the induction program is mentorship, peer support, the professional development portfolio, and training. And under training we say continuous professional teacher development. And what strengthens these pillars, what makes them solid and unmovable in a way, is how we use peer learning communities, PLCs, how the districts support the different pillars of the induction program, how the school management teams and the HODs support this process, how it relates to the South African Council of Educators, how teacher unions and other NGOs come on board to support the process, and then what support and assistance are provided to mentors. So this is the 4 pillars of the induction program. It's a little bit academic and gives a little bit of the theoretical underpinning of the induction program. But I can't wait to show you the materials. But I can't do it yet because I have to show you where we are in the plan. So this is the field testing plan. And you will see that at bullet number 5 is where we are today, which is the new teacher orientation meeting. And we hope that this orientation meeting will be able to set you up for what is to follow in the rest of the induction process. Many of you who are mentors, identified mentors already at the school, will go through a capacity development process. I've spoken already about Benita Williams Evaluations, who's doing the monitoring and evaluation for us. They will come up with a report with findings and recommendations. And finally, the last step will be the introduction of the new teacher induction program that will roll out across South Africa. And you will always be able to say, you know what, in 2020, I was part of a field test when this program was developed. So it will be with you for the rest of your career. So here we are now at the mentoring materials at last. So for the mentors, and I'm starting with the mentors, what we are going to give you is a pathway to mentoring. We know that we're not all at the same point, so we're going to give you a pathway to mentoring. What are the key steps towards within the mentoring process that will guide you. There will be a comprehensive guide for the training of mentors. Because some of this is train the trainer, we've developed a facilitator scenario so that, and this is very particular for the district officials or the provincial officials who will be going to schools to train mentors. This is just an illustrative program that you can use during that training, so that you don't have to think, where do I start? What is the first thing that I say to this group of mentors? And this scenario will assist you with that. And then we have the framework. This is the concept that I've referred to earlier. This is for your reading. This is comprehensive. It tells you all the research that we've done. It looks at South African context, African context, and continental context. And especially in Chapter 7, it starts to zoom into the induction program. So this is a very useful resource that you will be getting. The induction materials is applicable to the teacher, the newly qualified teacher, the newly appointed teacher. But it is of course important that a mentor must know what is in those materials, because then they can use it in their sessions with this newly qualified teacher during mentoring. So there's a handbook for teachers that will have a lot of content that you can read. It will cover the 7 themes that I've referred to earlier, and that is like your textbook. Very important part of the new teacher induction program. The other one is the activities. You see, we didn't want to put it all together in one, because then it becomes like one of those legal manuals, you know. We want it to be not intimidating. So we've taken all the activities out. So you will be able to work through the activities in a separate book. And then the most important one is your reflections. And this particular guide will guide you on how to do your reflections on the induction program and how to develop your portfolio of evidence. Of course, you can do it in the book or you can do it outside. The choice is you. We're not going to penalize you if you didn't tick every box, if you didn't do it exactly like we say in this book. It's there as a guide to you, and we hope that it will assist you during the process. I hope I've covered all the questions you may have had, and I hope you feel slightly less intimidated. I really would like to wish you all of the best as you embarked on this journey. Remember, this is field testing. Making mistakes is part of field testing. And we do not want to create an artificial environment to do the field testing. It's got to happen in real life. In that way, we will know, are we aiming too high? Must we lower our aim a little bit? And you will be able to guide us on that. So thank you so much for participating in this process. And we hope it will add value to your journey as a teacher. A special word of thanks to every school principal that is here. And thank you for supporting this process. The school management team is absolutely critical in this process. Without a committed principal to support this process, I'm not sure if we are going to succeed. And the district officials, you are the ones that need to sustain this particular process. So thank you for making yourself available during this process. We would like to wish you, as the Department of Basic Education, all of the best on this journey. I thank you.